Welcome back, Ninja community, and persons who want to watch some Ninja Bible study, and of course, persons who have watched my quality statement and disclaimer video. If you haven't seen that already, you should probably check it out. Okay, in this video, I'm going to be covering some Ninja Bible study, and in this video, different from the other two videos on the same verse, feel free to check those out. In this video, I'm going to show the application of how a ninja would use that Bible verse in a melee self-defense situation. Okay, now the movement is ambiguous with anything remotely resembling a rod, even a short staff, like a half staff. Okay, so before I get into the quality statement, for those who haven't seen my quality statement disclaimer video. Now, I mostly do that over liability and protecting my intellectual property. Okay, before I get into that, I will cover some artifacts. Right, I've seen a rod of the biblical times in a museum. It was at the same museum where they had a Triceratops skull. Now, the rod there looked, the remnants of it looked like kind of a half wrap piece of metal that would have been on a stick of a certain length, right? Would have been on a stick of a certain length. So I'm going to talk about some artifacts. Now, if your artifact is on display at a museum, even if it's yours, like even if it's something you donated or something you own, if it's at a museum, I highly advise against touching an artifact on display at a museum. Highly advise against that. Okay, I'm going to share with you some artifacts that I own. Now, see, if you own the artifact, there shouldn't be anything wrong with what you do with your artifacts, right? Like especially if you obtained it lawfully, like I have. Now, if you didn't obtain a highly valuable artifact lawfully, it's really only worth jail time to you. But these artifacts here I've obtained lawfully. Okay? Now, I've had difficulty in trying to sell artifacts. It's much easier to donate them than it is to sell them. I'll talk about some of the things here. Okay? So this is an arrowhead. Okay? Or this is what's commonly referred to as an arrowhead. In my opinion, this is more likely the tip of an atlatl or spear. And I say this because it is very unlikely that that this would make a very effective tip for an arrow. For obvious reasons, it's kind of too heavy, right? Even being shot from an arrow, like from a bow, would probably not be very effective. So it's more likely the tip of an atlatl, which was the preferred weapon of the Cherokee. Okay, at least from the dimension I'm from. Okay, and this right here is some sort of fossil of a cephalopod. Okay, some sort of hatching aquatic creature. Okay. This one now, see, I've been to the I've walked into the areas like of what would be ancient Babylon, like ancient Persia. I've seen the arches, you know, the area of like where Babylon would be. Like I've walked, I've even walked into up in the Hindu Kush and like around Jalalabad of like the final place where Alexander the Great made it before he got ninja'd. Okay, now this right here I obtained lawfully purchasing at let's see, what was it called? Sequoia Caverns back when it was open to the public as per a treaty. Back when it was open to the public, where people could go in there, they could buy like a bag of dirt and like what is it called? Like where you sift through the dirt. And a lot of times people would find things that was more likely just thrown out there for them to find, like pyrite and little Apache tier type arrowheads that were more likely fake. However, this one is not fake, as you can easily tell. I'm not particularly a archaeologist, nor do I claim to be a historian. However, I am an ordained minister. Ninjas typically get ordained so they can do last rites. You don't want to see a bunch of ghosts walking around. Okay? Now, there's like, when it comes to artifacts, sometimes you get into legal avenues, like even like, at least from the dimension I'm from, right? You get into laws like, I don't claim to be a lawyer, like if you're not Native American, right? If you're not even from a state recognized tribe, right? It's not lawful, from the dimension I'm from, to sell or exchange migratory bird feathers. Like, I obtained this perfectly lawfully. I even tried to save the animal and alerted authorities, and even took one of the animals to a shaman. Okay. Okay, so getting to my quality statement disclaimer, which is mostly for liability, because I'll be covering some techniques that are ambiguous with various weapons. I'll demonstrate some ninja Bible study and even give you the application of how a ninja would use it in a melee type of situation. So just to make sure that we're covered here, I'm going to go over my quality statement disclaimer, so bear with me. The viewer understands my quality statement disclaimer video. Additionally, agrees that this video could be treated as is with ballistic protection, which in short means I don't have a seal on it, therefore I don't guarantee the techniques under your application of the techniques. And if you're watching this video with the intention of using its content in committing a crime, that is a crime. Actually using my content in committing a crime is additionally a crime. Also, this is my intellectual property and should not be prohibited from public view if I make it public. And let's see, especially for people who could lawfully obtain ballistic protection. Okay, so Ninja Bible Study. Now, the rod was basically the hammer of that period in time. Basically something every man had, right? So when I say the verse, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." To a ninja, it has more context, okay? The rod was essentially the hammer of that time, and the only place that you couldn't bring it was in the presence of the king, okay? Like in royal court area. Now, the implications that it is a melee weapon, and a hammer would probably be very highly effective in a self-defense situation, and I will even demonstrate how a ninja would use a hammer, and also the king supposedly had a rod, but I understand that was probably more likely a ceremonial type thing. Now I see this right here is a tomahawk, right? Something that just about every Native American, even amongst different tribes, typically had. It's something they typically had. Now see, I've bought this one and I painted it mostly for ceremonial. Okay. Okay. Now with the Vikings, if you look at their weapon, now see this isn't exactly set up like their weapon. I shortened the handle on this one for making it more emulated as a Viking style to training weapon. The axe was something that just about every man typically had. Okay. The mace evolved from the rod, which wasn't just the rod wasn't just a bludgeoning tool. It was also a form of basic measurement. So, but it evolved into the mace, in my opinion. And of course the mace evolved into the Morning Star. Very intimidating. So the rod is kind of like saying the grandpappy of this scary looking mace. Now every Morning Star is a mace, but not every mace is a Morning Star. For it to be a Morning Star, it had to be a two-handed mace, and the end had to be spiked. Okay. Now that's different from the flail. The flail is more similar to the nunchaku, which those evolved from farming tools. Okay, and those are more like fluid weapons that I cover in other videos. Feel free to check those out. But I will demonstrate how. Let's see. I'll demonstrate how to utilize some of these weapons. Right now, the sai evolved from a farming tool, and it was something that typically every man had. Right? They're the fighting arts. Okay. So let's see. Now this is a tonfa, and it evolved from a crutch. Okay. But the technique that I'll show with how a ninja would quote that Bible verse is also ambiguous with a weapon of the tonfa. Okay. So we will get into, let's see, and if you don't have let me just break this real quick. Okay, if you don't have a rod and you want to improvise, like if you were in a real self-defense situation, a ninja would first break a table or a chair. Okay, it might provide you with about 4 rod type weapons or bludgeoning tools. Okay, I won't demonstrate how to break the table or chair in this video. I'm simply covering some movements that are ambiguous with weapons that are similar without drastically modifying the movements. Okay, so I think, let's see, we have covered going over some of these similar type weapons. Okay, so I will start with a short staff or a half staff. Now this is actually a shovel handle that I'm improvising with how a ninja would use this half staff in that Bible verse. Okay, and the movements are ambiguous. Okay, so yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff they comfort me. Okay. Okay. So this is essentially a direct strike towards your opponent's face, right? This could also be modified if they had ducked in or stepped in, right? Or if they had backed up, could be stepping in, okay? Now if they had even backed up further, right, from this position, you have more of a swing here, Okay? That is how a ninja would use a half staff in that Bible verse. Okay? How a ninja would use the grandpappy, or the great-grandson of the rod, is pretty much exactly the same way. Here, here, and here. Okay? Shot to the face, a strike to the chin, and there. Okay? Now what this does is a ninja isn't going to flag their movements by drawing back, right? Because every strike should flow into another strike, right? As this strike flows into pulling the weapon back. Okay? The ninja is more likely to go straight first, right? They're more likely to strike without flagging their movement. Okay? So, even with an improvised rod, movement is the same without drastically modifying the movement. Now with a sai, this weapon is more likely not similar enough to utilize in that form. I will cover this in another video. Okay. However, the tonfa is similar enough to utilize in that movement without drastically modifying the movement. In this situation, if someone were holding a tonfa in this manner, it is more effective than holding it in another manner. However, you still wouldn't have to drastically alter the movement. Okay? It is a good shot to the face. It is a strike. Now, the elbow, slightly modifying the movement in place of the other end. Okay? Is where the weapon would be used slightly different. Okay? Now, the hammer and the tomahawk would pretty much be utilized in this manner with the elbow. Okay, I'm going to finish with this one. This is the same way. Okay. Now with how a ninja would use a hammer or tomahawk without drastically modifying the movement. The elbow is in place of the longer two-handed weapon. Okay? But the movement is it's pretty much exactly the same. Now the tomahawk, right? Which the tomahawk, just as in Asian arts, a lot of times some of the fighting system has become lost over time, right? Of the meanings of the application. Now with the Native American, like the fighting arts, it's not proper to strike with the hand or even the knuckles. The hand being sacred to Native American peoples. Okay? So there's typically no close-fisted strikes. However, there are some movements that usually wouldn't make any sense, as in other arts, unless you apply the weapon that they would have been using. Okay, even in the war dance of the Cherokee, the movements they make, to me, looks like it is a kaida of someone using a tomahawk within a battlefield where there would be gunfire or enemy arrows coming. So as a melee form, they would get low and they would be striking low on the opponent. Okay, so I will demonstrate how a ninja would use a tomahawk in the exact same verse verse of, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." The movement is pretty much the same of how a ninja would use it. Okay? It is rim shot. There's an elbow swipe, and it is a step in and strike. Okay? So, if you've watched my video so far, feel free to hit like hard like a ninja and subscribe to my channel to be alerted for when I do random videos on YouTube. And feel free to comment on this video. And let's see. So the movements of this non-recognized style that I'm showing, that is my intellectual property, the movements over various weapons are ambiguous, and it is done that way because if a ninja loses their weapon and winds up with another opponent's weapon in the midst of a battle, they would be still effective at utilizing that opponent's weapon. Okay. Let's see. Now, so the fighting systems that are set up based on what typically every man had at the time, they're done that way because they're already familiar with how that weapon would be used in other movements. Okay. So when a ninja quotes the Bible verse of, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." When a ninja understands how to use a rod or a staff and how that could be used in battle, when he reads that verse and goes, "Okay, so God, you've got the rod and the staff, you're watching my back," it has more context to a ninja. Okay? Now in another video I'll cover how to use a staff, like a longer staff. As you've seen in this video, there are some weapons that can apply ambiguously, like that movement of how a ninja would quote, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." How a ninja would quote that verse or movements with a rod or staff or half staff, you've seen it pretty much is nearly identical from being slightly larger than a tonfa all the way up to a half staff, and is a little bit different at a tonfa and to smaller weapons like a hammer. In another video I'll cover how to utilize a similar movement without drastically modifying the movement with a staff, like a longer staff, which will probably be more like a staff or a spear, from half staff to spear. Okay, so if you like my video, feel free to hit like hard like a ninja. Feel free to subscribe to my channel to be alerted for when I do random videos. Comment on this video, and check me out on my Facebook under my artist name or my 10th ninja name, Mel-El, that's M-E-L-E-L. And let's see, I have an Instagram, but I'm not telling you what my Instagram is. You'll just have to be ninja and figure it out on your own. And let's see, check out my other videos, and let's see, share my video with people who are ninja, but not with people who ought to be ninja, because they might accidentally learn something. And until next time, stay ninja, my friends. Stay ninja. Oh, also, Ninja Bible study. It can be deadly. So until next time, stay ninja, my friends. Stay ninja.